Welcome to the Midwest Blitz. It's college football comfort food for the Midwest soul. Now, here are your hosts, Coach Drew and Big Nick.
The house that Rockne built, the Big House, the Horseshoe, Death Valley, the Coliseum. They sound like locations from a Hollywood movie or even a Shakespearean drama, but they're not. These are just a few of college football's cathedrals, places we go to see drama unfold before our eyes, places where legends are born and names are etched into eternity, names that live on for generations. The Galloping Ghost, the Four Horsemen, the Minister of Defense, the Tyler Rose, Bo Jackson, the Boz, Air McNair. May he rest in peace. College football is a uniquely American institution, a treasure that we all share. And it starts with a bang this week. Week 1 is live, and the Midwest Blitz Week 1 preview show starts now.
Yeah, yup.
Yeah, yup.
Well, you guys just heard it straight from the State of Union of college football. Nick just gave it, this is a touching month for some, as Lee Corso is going off into the sunset in his last college game day. We're going to touch that later on our next podcast, but we just want to mention that if you do have some time, try to catch it live early this Saturday morning. It's definitely going to be a tearjerker.
There won't be a dry eye in the house.
There will not be. He's a great guy for sure. Well, as previously discussed, I'm about ready to go. Are you about ready to go, Nick?
I've been ready. I done been ready, Coach Drew.
For many of you guys that are watching it live, we are having some technical difficulties with Coach Drew over here. He's having the Wizard of Oz effect, so bear with me as we also will be on YouTube this week.
Come on, Coach Drew.
Well, here we go. We got Western Michigan going to Michigan State. Nick, you talked all about it as I shared it earlier on Facebook. Michigan State is one of your sleeper agents in the Big Ten. I'll let you lead it off.
The Broncos go to East Lansing plus 19.5. Coach Smith and the Spartans, along with quarterback Aiden Childs, will give a less than friendly welcome to the Broncos squad, decimated by graduates and transfers on the offensive line and defensive backfield. Expect a beatdown and some serious numbers put up by Aiden Childs and the Robin to his Batman, Nick Marsh. I don't say that to be offensive to Nick Marsh, but that is a dynamic duo, Coach Drew.
Absolutely is.
What's the next game? We don't have any big games to cover this week, do we?
We might actually, as we do have Texas and Ohio State.
By the way, Western Michigan, Michigan State will be Friday, so that'll be an appetizer to the Fox Big Noon kickoff. Texas now plus only 1.5 at Ohio State, noon Saturday on Fox. So the main storyline in this game is a college football semifinal rematch that will feature a lot of new faces. On either side, you've got a new quarterback in Archmania comes to the Horseshoe, and Julian Sayin, who in his own right in this matchup is an overlooked young superstar quarterback, or at least a potential superstar in the making. Texas will have 4 new offensive line starters. Ohio State has 3. Ohio State lost 8 starters on their defense, all drafted in the NFL, including their leading tackler, Cody Simon. And they had the best defensive line in America last year, Coach Drew. Some called them the Death Star of defensive line play last year. So I'm going to get into a offense versus defense matchup for each side. The Ohio State offense, there's a good news, bad news situation. Good news for the Buckeyes. They returned the nation's best wide receiver core, including all-world, all-universe, all-everything wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. The bad news is they face a badass Texas defense featuring All-American linebacker Anthony Hill, who might be the best linebacker in the country and potentially the top linebacker picked in the NFL draft should he choose to come out next year. I think he's only a junior. So the key to watch here is Ohio State is going to remain a pass-first team on offense. Not to say that they won't be able to run the ball at all, although that will be a chore against this Texas front seven. So with Ohio State being a pass-first team, can the new-look offensive line protect Julian Sayin as he tries to run point guard and distribute the ball to all the options he has in the receiving? So with Texas's offense versus Ohio State's defense, this is possibly the most anticipated start ever by a college quarterback. I mean, am I overstating that, Coach Drew?
No, you're not. And it's actually one of the biggest rivalries in comparison of quarterback starts that we're going to see in week 1.
Yeah, very interesting to see two new guys take over the reins at dominant programs that made the CFP semifinal and just happened to play each other last year. No big deal, right? So Arch Mania enters the shoe, and I think that Coach Sarkisian is going to use a lot of misdirection and a lot of creative play calling to protect Arch early in the game and as long as he can. So the thing to watch here as the game progresses is, how does Manning, with some new offensive linemen, and I mean, I know the SEC likes to brag about how tough it is to play a road game in the SEC. Ohio Stadium is nothing to sneeze at. It is going to be louder than, it's going to be louder than a jackhammer factory in that place on
It's
third
like
down.
it's going into a hornet's nest is what it's like.
Absolutely.
Hornet's nest is the best way to describe it.
So how do Manning and the new offensive linemen handle crowd noise, coverage, audibles, protections, and communication during third down? Because I know my Hoosiers sure didn't handle it very well last year, and even Curt Cignetti admitted that. The other key to watch on the Texas offense versus Ohio State defensive front is didn't mean to overlook these guys. A few Buckeye fans thought that I wasn't paying attention. How will Ohio State use superstars Sonny Styles at linebacker and Caleb Downs, who's like a hybrid safety? They're going to walk him up into the box a lot. They even had him playing the hybrid linebacker safety position in their fall camp during the limited time that there were cameras allowed. How is Ohio State going to use these two guys to make Arch's life miserable? Because these guys are not only phenomenal athletes, but they both have the football IQ of having another coach on the field. They're the type of guys that will have the freedom to freelance and the athletic ability, and most importantly, the football IQ to go off script and create turnovers and create tackles for losses against the run game. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Well, they're missing their general, or their 5-star general. Jim Knowles is no longer there for Ohio State in the defensive coordinator spot. They do return Downs and Sonny. I mean, those guys are going to help them a lot tremendously. Going to the horseshoe, it's going to be loud. I always remember middle 2000s when Ohio State would come out and they would go back and forth and rock before coming out, and it looked like a bunch of bees coming out, right? So that's where I kind of get the bee reference. It's going into a hornet's nest. With Ohio State, the fans are going to be there. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a lot of emotions is what it's going to be. Arch Manning has been training for this moment his whole life. Whether we agree or not agree, his grandfather calls him and always tells him, find the sticks or get down, right? Or run out of bounds. Little stuff like that. There's no goodbyes in that family. He's a third generation mock good American quarterback. And he's going down to the horseshoe. Now, okay, so Texas has gone to Michigan last year in week 2 and beat Michigan in the big house. Everybody didn't know where they're going to be because Jim Harbaugh left and went to the Chargers. Thank you. I like the Chargers. And so they had a lot of question marks there. This is a very different Ohio State team we're looking at right here. Ohio State still has Ryan Day at the helm. They just have new generals calling the plays. Like you said, offense is new and fresh for Texas. They bring in guys. They bring out guys. Bijan Robinson was there. Bijan Mustard, right? For all my guys that are listening from Texas, you got Pluckers down there. Pluckers is a great chicken place, and they got Bijan Wings. Got them sponsored by down there. For my Austin people, they're going to rely. We talked about Notre Dame earlier in our podcast. They have a really good running back room. We talked about Penn State having a really good running back room. Arch Manning is glowing so big that Windsor and Baxter, 2 running backs who could definitely do it and get them established at the horseshoe early, right? Get their feet wet, get the play action going, and then Arch Manning with his red dot is just going to start shooting away some passes to Windsor, all right? Let me tell you a little fun fact about my boy Arch, okay? You think Arch is scared to go to the horseshoe, right? With all these blue-collar people. Now, shout out to blue collars, but this man who does not need to be in the trenches, in the projects, right, goes down with his buddy who's a wide receiver, Windsor. Actually, sorry, I messed that one up. Wingo. Sorry, Windsor and Wingo. Wingo goes down to East St. Louis with Wingo. is signing shoes, running a block party, throwing up Texas signs, hopefully not gang signs, and has protection. Like, if we're playing a video game, the collaboration or relationship is 100%. Him and Wingo are going to ball out. If somebody hits Arch Manning and they feel like it's dirty, they're going to have his back. Arch Manning should be very comfortable. He has Eli, his uncle. He has Panning, his uncle. Those are two quarterbacks that he can rely on for information.
So Arch does come from the family of football royalty, if we have such a thing in this country. By the way, my Hoosiers play the Old Dominion Monarchs. We don't believe in monarchs or royal families in this country, but if we did, the Mannings are that family. And so, as I highlighted Arch, I didn't mean to overlook Quintravion Wisner on my All-American names team, possibly our All-American running backs team, and CJ Baxter. He's got weapons. He does have Ryan Wingo, his boy that he hung out with in the offseason. He does have Jack Indries at tight end, who I think the transfer from Cal could be an All-American at tight end for Texas this year. They have no shortage of weapons. And that's why, to circle back around, I had third down communication as my key to watch for the Texas offense, because Sarkisian loves the RPO. He loves the jet motion, the jet handoffs, and all these things, all this window dressing that keeps the defense off balance. And when the defense is off balance, looking at all those things, they become slow. But there's two guys on that Ohio State defense that will not be slowed down by that, and it is Sonny Styles, and it is Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, the best safety in America. A lot of people are saying that Ohio State will have the best player on the field on both sides of the ball in every game they play this year, and that's because of Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. But I think that, there's a point in a boxing match where you don't dance anymore. It's time to trade shots, and it's time to counterpunch and fight in a phone booth. And that's going to be on these third downs for Texas. That's going to make or break the Texas offense. And with all the turnover that Ohio State's had, regardless of how many talented guys that have a lot of recruiting stars next to their name, if you've been listening to Midwest Blitz, you know that we like recruiting stars. But recruiting stars are not as important as what you've actually done on the field, what you've seen live. Until you see live bullets, your recruiting stars don't mean a lot to me. And Ohio State, in returning 8 guys on defense, just so happens to have 2 of the most talented and high football IQ players I could have, and they could cause Arch a lot of problems.
Yep. I think we covered everything in that game, didn't we, Nick? I mean, that's about...
You got a pick, Coach Drew? You gonna make a pick?
Yeah. We'll make a pick. And just to mention, this is at 11 a.m. on Fox, okay? And an update, we're just making sure, I was checking while Nick was talking. The YouTube and Fox should be squared away before that. I know there's some people that are wondering if they have YouTube TV, if they're going to be able to see it, or if Fox is going to pull it. A lot of political stuff back there, even with the Barstool situation, and who knows what's going on there. I don't want to touch too much. I don't want to poke the bear too much as Ohio State, as we are the Midwest Blitz.
Yeah, yep.
This is probably the only time that we will see a number 1 ranked team go on the road and be plus 1.5. With that being said, I'm going to take Texas money line. Just straight up Texas money line. I think Arch Manning is going to pull away with this one. There's an old gambling thing about if you first somebody the second time, you bet on the other team that, and vice versa. Ohio State won last time, Texas wins this time. They're going to go back and forth because they're both really good teams.
Okay, Drew put his money where his mouth is. I am not going to put my money where my mouth is on this one, but I'm going to say this. Unless Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs can put their cape on and make some big plays for this Ohio State defense, the lack of experience from Ohio State will allow some big plays for Texas, maybe from Wingo, maybe from Wisner. We don't know yet. But I think that the Longhorns go into the shoe and steal one. And this isn't a rematch. This is 2 new teams, 2 very new teams. But I do think that replacing 8 guys off the defense from Ohio State, all of the NFL, there's going to be some slight growing pains there. But I could not be more pumped about this game. I just couldn't.
Yeah, we haven't had a game this exciting since Farmageddon. Another college football playoff game, and we're not even like a couple games in. There's a couple other top 10 matchups. So we're going to go through it. There's also a game now very close to Central Indiana. Ball State is traveling to Purdue. Ball State has a 17.5 to cover. Nick, you had some thoughts about this game, didn't you?
I sure do. My dad was a Ball State alum, and they're playing one of my, not favorite teams in Purdue, being an IU fan. But Ball State plus 17.5 at Purdue will show a lot from two new coaching staffs, new offensive systems, players that we're not that familiar with. Also, by the way, this is a noon kickoff. Over under is 50.5. And I wouldn't touch Ball State plus 17.5. I wouldn't touch the spread with a 10-foot pole because we don't really know what we're going to get from these teams. But if you want something to watch, if you check in on this game and you want to learn something about these two football teams, the most intriguing matchup is this. Ball State is going to run a heavy RPO/spread option system with the new coaching staff. The new head coach, who I believe was at Butler University last year, was the offensive coordinator at Ball State in 2023. They retain the same quarterback who they had success with at the end of that year. So if you're a Purdue fan, you tune into this game and see how disciplined Purdue's linebacker safeties are against this RPO system. Because when you're playing against this type of offense, it's going to test how well coached you are and how well prepared you are and how disciplined you are. So you can learn something about Purdue's defense or Ball State's offense. And if Ball State's offense is able to have some success against a physically more talented Purdue roster, not necessarily one of the more talented in the Big Ten, but more talented than Ball State's, that's going to have good signs for Charlie Cardinal. So that is the matchup, is the RPO spread option for Ball State against Purdue's defense.
Yeah, I couldn't say better. This is going to be a great game for Odom to see where he's at as far as Purdue.
Also, look for Mockabee to carry the load for Purdue because he is one of the proven commodities that they have. And he's a heck of a football player and definitely a John Purdue type of guy that I know Boiler fans enjoy and love, and he's going to have a good day.
As you might have saw earlier, I was throwing up this. This is a chirp symbol. This is from Ball State, not a gag symbol.
Chirp,
so
chirp.
Just understand. Chirp, chirp. All right. So I'm also pro Ball State, as my buddy Joe and my other friends have gone to Ball State. Purdue, I'm a Notre Dame fan. Similar to IU, IU, Notre Dame are kind of like cousins on the Purdue hate, but we're not going to slander them. We want to see Purdue get better because it's just better for rivalries, better for football when teams are better. Odom's going to have his hands on them. And if you want to tune into that game, it's really hard to say because it's also at 11 a.m. You can pan that one on a small TV somewhere and watch on the Big Ten Network. All right. So, Nick, you also wanted to touch on Northwestern plus 5.5 at Tulane. It might have went up a little bit, but that's what we had from our notes earlier today. Go ahead, take it away.
Northwestern plus 5.5 at Tulane. I think that's down from 6. So if the Northwestern offense can just put up a few points, the defense will keep this close, and it would be a huge win for Northwestern. I believe their Vegas preseason over-under was it 3.5 or 4.5, Coach Drew? It was one or the other. So this would be a big game as a road underdog for Northwestern to win. I'm not going to touch the gambling lines on this one, but be interesting for Northwestern.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the next game we're also going to cover, this is one of our spotlight games. It actually has one of our favorites in the MAC, Toledo, going on the road to Kentucky, 7.5. So, Toledo, first off, shout out to Toledo. I wish they had this last year with the program. I sent you what they just released as far as uniforms, didn't I?
Yeah, they got like some new all whites, basically.
All whites. They have an alternative. I believe there's a rocket on it. I use that one a lot too. Or there was a black helmet. I kind of did a blackout, and I did different stuff with that. I'm really excited for this Toledo team. As far as like how I see this game going, I think it's a trap game for Kentucky. Kentucky with Stoop is coming into this conversation. They didn't do well last year, okay? And they're hosting Toledo, and they're thinking, okay, it's Toledo, it's a MAC team. Who gives a damn? You should give a damn, Kentucky, because you're going to need those wins to stay bowl eligible and possibly crash the college football playoff if that is your goal, which it should be. That's why we play these damn games, right? Unless you're looking at an intern head coach and you have a general manager in Stanford, which we don't know all about those facts, right, folks? But back to the Kentucky-Toledo situation, all right? So Kentucky's looking at Toledo, and they're like, all right, we got to beat this team. Yeah, absolutely. Vegas, though, like me, has it like 7.5, right? And it's probably going to drop. Oh, this was 7.5 like a couple days ago. It might drop to 6.5. If it's below that, I would say just take Toledo money line. The reason why I say this, I think Toledo has beaten 3 or 4 powerhouse teams, 2 in the SEC recently on the road. This team is built for that. And Gleason is one of our All-American MAC preview players of the year, right? Quarterbacks, potentially being a quarterback in the NFL. Kentucky starting Calzada, okay? Calzada, for many of you that might have heard this name before, he was the former quarterback at Texas A&M. He's one of those 6-year quarterbacks that me and Nick talk about that you're not going to hear about no more because they got rid of those rules, right? We're not counting JUCO, we're counting straight up. You went from one D1 to another D1 to another D1, back and forth. This game is going to be 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Oops, sorry, my bad. 45 on SEC ESPN.
Central.
I correct that. Central. And 12:05 Eastern. It's going to be the SEC ESPN. So that's going to be like if you're at halftime for the Texas Ohio State game, which is where you're going to be at, you can tune into that. That one I put. So if we're gonna put TVs here, let's just use our imagination at TVs. So if you have that little like cable box that you used to wind up and you used to put like your bunny ears when you go on an RV camping trip, that would be like your Ball State Purdue game. This one I put like more like on a computer monitor, maybe something that like we're recording on and looking at right now. That's what I'd put the Toledo and Kentucky game because I think they're gonna have a dog fight there. You got anything to add on that game that maybe you want to chime in on?
I'm confirming the line right now. If everyone in the listening audience could just be very patient with me for just a moment.
Yeah, while he's doing that, like I said, Kentucky program as a whole last year regressed. They're trying to build up on something. Toledo, on the other hand, we want them to make it to the college football playoffs. If they can beat a P5 team, right, and then Kentucky gets out of the trap, this trap idea or a game, I think that helps Toledo, because if Toledo beats Kentucky, we are, in a way, rooting for Kentucky to help them get more strict the schedule, which also plays into the college football selection and committee.
Well,
update?
I hope everyone in this audience knows I will never fucking root for the Kentucky Wildcats one time. No, yeah, I got an update on the line. It is currently, according to ESPN, Kentucky minus 9.5. If you want to lay a few bones on this, I would take the points at Kentucky. I don't know if you guys, we'll talk about this as the season goes on. Definitely in non-conference games, the home team that's paying the mid-major team to come in hires the refs. I am a ref. I'm not telling you that there's cheating, but I am telling you that if you want to go get a big fat payday as a college ref, the last thing you want to do is call the game in such a way that there's some kind of upset. I always factor that in, even in college basketball, especially in college basketball, actually. Yeah, I would take the points, but I do think Toledo has a chance. I do think this will be a fun game. I do think Tucker Gleason at quarterback for Toledo is a dog. I do think Chip Trainum at running back for Toledo is a dog. So yeah, another fun game to check out, especially if maybe one of the other games goes haywire and you're looking for something to watch. Go Rockets.
Yeah, absolutely. Go Rockets. The Rockets have a special place in my heart because I coached them in 2 national championships in the last college football game. I just want everybody to remind you that I'm like a sleeper Toledo fan, okay? All right.
Coach Drew is an honest man and a simple man. We love you for that, Coach Drew.
Yep. Missiles and air raids. So now we go to the Monarchs playing our Hoosiers, which are going to be showing the Buffalo Bison.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, Indiana is going to show the old things are new again, the new and revised Bison mascot, which I'm pretty pumped about. So if you guys don't realize it, once upon a time, there were a ton of buffalo in Indiana, and that is why the bison has been associated with the state of Indiana. There used to be a buffalo nickel here in the state. I'm not sure if that goes back before we were a state, but when we were a territory, and different states, different territories had their own currencies. That's a whole history lesson that Coach Drew can do for his school class tomorrow. But so, yeah, Indiana shows off the bison. So you've got a chance for Fernando Mendoza, the highly touted transfer from California, to come in here and test his arm. Some of these guys have stretched their leg a little bit. I will say this about Old Dominion. Phil Steele has them, I believe, as the 3rd ranked team in the Sun Belt Conference, a conference that Coach Kurt Cignetti at Indiana is familiar with because he used to coach the James Madison Dukes there. So we'll see if Mendoza can exploit a rebuilding defensive back group that was number 88 in the national pass defense rankings, according to Phil Steele last year. This is not as much of a walkover game as some people think it is. people don't follow the Sun Belt. Old Dominion is a 22.5-point underdog, but not a complete throwaway team. A team that's well coached and could come in and be a good sparring partner for Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be at 1:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern Time on FS1, so you can actually catch that in your local area. And that's good too, actually, that I mentioned that because IU started to get more recognition. I know FS1 is a Fox and Big Ten and all that, but I think that's just huge that they're actually getting the nod as other games could have got that slot.
That is a pretty good point, Drew. I mean, I had that slated. I thought that was going to be a Big Ten Network alternate channel game. So that does show that Indiana's getting a little love from the networks. Want to do Nevada at Penn State?
Yeah, Nevada, also known as the gambling state, for whatever reason, juiced is so high that
Nobody will
sometimes
bet it.
nobody will bet it. Nobody will bet it. And then sometimes they have a sour gummy worm in front of them dangling, right? And they want the degenerate just to come up and nibble.
And just take a bite out of that. And then you've got a hook in you. And then you're hooked, Coach Drew. Then you're hooked. And then you've got a
Yep.
problem. And then you've got gambling debts. And then you get fired from your job because there's shady people coming around to collect your gambling debts because you thought Penn State was going to cover 44.5 at home. And you know what? Maybe I would have thought that too, but you know what? It didn't happen. And now your whole life is ruined. It's ruined because you bet this game plus 44.5 Nevada at Penn State. Gamblers, be wary of this spread because Penn State is likely to get out to a big lead in the first half, then run the ball a bunch like they did in the CFP home game last year against SMU where they were up 28-0 at halftime and then ended up winning like 35-0. So please don't bet this game. Coach Franklin, get your guys in there, let them stretch their legs and get them out.
Yep. And that's a home game for Penn State, not in Nevada, so they should be all cool instead of being in that Nevada heat.
Don't do it, Drew. Don't take the bait. And Midwest Blitz listeners, don't take the bait. As tasty as
Don't
it
take
might
the bait.
appear, don't take the bait.
As tasty as a sour gurm, they could put it on there. Maybe a trolley, maybe an Albanese. Don't take it. All right.
Those of you not watching the video feed just missed Coach Drew almost bite a sour gummy worm off a hook that he baited for himself to illustrate how dangerous these type of lines can be. We're here to look out for you guys here on the Midwest Blitz.
We will be adding more props as we go, so we can support you, our listeners, some comedy and some love. Well, let's head down to, now I called it Montana State, but correct me when we were doing our scripting, it's Missouri State versus USC, Nick. I don't know how I messed that one up.
I'm glad that Missouri State is not included in Midwest Blitz coverage. Apparently, Drew hates the state of Missouri almost as much as he hates Kansas. So
Okay, all right. Let me defend this one, all right?
Do your
Didn't
best.
Missouri... All right, here we go. 5 seconds or less. Didn't Missouri get into a battle about with the Confederacy for the Union for North and South Territory?
The state of Missouri was considered like almost a neutral state, yes, during the Civil War.
Well.
Missouri State plus 35.5, formerly known as Southwest Missouri State, were former
known as the Confederacy. State.
IU basketball legend Steve Alford got his first head coaching job there. Now known as Missouri State, is at the USC Trojans over under 59.5, Missouri State plus 35.5. Missouri State enters their first year in FBS, so let's see if Jaden Mayava and Jacoby Lane can produce some fireworks in this game. It's nice little eye candy for Trojan fans there to see Coach Lincoln Riley air out some of his big guns, let him run around, catch some balls, have a little fun.
Well, according to one of our Notre Dame insiders who's been tracking USC heavily this season for a multitude of reasons, he was saying that USC's defense is supposed to be spot on and be really strong this year. What do you think about that, Nick? Think USC's defense is going to hold up and actually get them to where they need to be for the, which is at 35.5. That's a huge one.
If I was a degenerate USC fan, I might press the button on this plus 35.5. I think that USC is capable of putting up a lot of points, but we'll see what Missouri State can do. What we got next, Coach Drew?
We got New Mexico versus Michigan, the Wolverines.
So the Lobos The Lobos are on head coach number 3 in as many years. While New Mexico has had some success, they just haven't been able to retain coaches. I believe New Mexico's coach has joined the Utah Utes as their offensive coordinator. So New Mexico brought in some transfer players with the new coach, but at Michigan, against an absolute Goliath of a defensive front, New Mexico is going to have major problems. I don't like this spread from a gambling perspective, though, because I think that Michigan is going to lean on the run with a freshman quarterback, which has been
Common
a theme
in the Big Ten.
Common theme on week 1 games with freshmen starting quarterbacks. I mean, they might let the 5-star recruit go out there and sling it a little bit, but when they get a lead, they're going to lean run probably, even though they're capable of beating them by 40-plus points. 36.5 is just too much.
When you put a red cape in front of a bull, what usually tends to happen, Nick?
The bull tends to charge, Coach Drew.
Well, think about that, but now we're changing that bull to a Michigan Wolverine, as a lot of them are prepping to see the same colors that New Mexico wears, the Lobos, against Michigan. Now, they are going to be wearing the same colors Ohio State is. What I'm getting to is Michigan is going to be all riled up. They're going to see red. They're going to see that silver. They're going to go out and take a soul. Okay, Michigan and Ohio State is one of the last games of the season, and we're in week 1, and we're fired up over here at the podcast. Let me also mention this. A lot of people don't know this. New Mexico's actually dropped a pretty sick Native American infused teal color, really majestic. It's a really nice blue. Okay, if you have a chance, look it up. It's really nice. Michigan, Bryce Underwood. What does he have? Is he going to be the next Heisman freshman? Who knows? Anything else you want to add to that one, Nick?
I wanted to ask you, were you trying to say magenta or majestic?
I kind of chuckled and got between both of them. It was a twist in my brains.
So New Mexico is going to come in with a really cute jersey and just get their ass kicked at Michigan. That's what I just heard.
Yeah, not today, later in the season, but yes, it's one of their new changes. All right, now, one of the other big spotlight games. This one is going to be featured on ABC Family. That is huge for college football, as we all know. 6:30, 7:30 Eastern. We have LSU with Bayou Brian heading down to Clemson. Gonna be playing with the Tigers. Go ahead, Nick.
As you say, go Tigers. No, they don't say that. They don't say that anymore, do they? Sorry, that's a past regime. So the main storyline in this game is that Bayou Brian and the Bengals head to Clemson Saturday night. Can Brian and his family finally win a season opener at Clemson? So we got a big-time cat fight going on here between the Bengals and the Tigers of Clemson. I'm going to go a little offense-defense matchup on both sides of the ball. So Heisman candidate Nussmeier brings a talented skill position group into Death Valley behind what I'll call a new-look offensive line. They lost 4 starters the NFL draft, and they face a loaded Clemson defense headlined by defensive line All-Americans Peter Woods, and I'm going to call him Super Team All-American TJ Parker at defensive end. This guy is a freaking animal. So the key to watch for LSU's offense against Clemson's defense is, will Nussmeier be able to find enough time to run the offense? I think Nussmeier might be the best quarterback in the country, so I'm not throwing any shade at him whatsoever. But I think, and you'll see a theme throughout my breakdown of this game, the LSU offensive line is going to be heavily outmatched by a Clemson defensive line that kind of looks like Murderer's Row. So the Clemson offense versus the LSU defense, the other Heisman level quarterback in this game, not to make him second tier, is Cade Klubnik. So Cade Klubnik will come into this game and operate behind one of the nation's best offensive lines and has a plethora of weapons at his disposal. While on the LSU defense, tackling machine linebacker Will Weeks leads an LSU defense behind 4 new defensive line starters. In year 2 of his tenure, can defensive coordinator Blake, who is the highest paid assistant coach in college football, if my research serves me correctly, can defensive coordinator Baker earn his paycheck and bring consistency to a unit that has featured poor tackling, among other poor things? So my key to watch on this side of the ball is Can Will Weeks and the LSU defense stand up to one of the top offensive line units in the country? The Clemson offensive line is on the Joe Moore Award watch list. This is the pick of the week. I've got at least 5 units
Some
on
say
it.
the greatest pick.
The best pick, the greatest pick. Can the LSU defense stand up to the pounding they're going to take up front from this Clemson offensive line with an All-American level quarterback and a great coaching staff? Dabo's going to have him primed for this one. And Bayou Brian's going to be humiliated again. He's going to lose the opener again. He's going to have to go back to some wino party at LSU and explain why they got their ass kicked in the opener again. I'm giving points. I got Clemson. I got at least 5 units on it. It's taking every bit of my self-control not to just bet the house on it. There is absolutely no way that LSU is going to go to Death Valley at Clemson and survive this game without being humiliated. I absolutely have no thought that LSU is going to be able to win this game or cover. What's the line at? 6.5?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
wait.
at 6.5.
I had LSU. Is this right?
No,
LSU
I had it 3.5. I had a 3.5. I'll cross reference it.
Today it was 3.5. It was 6.5 last week. Dude, Clemson is going to put an ass whooping on these guys.
Belt
to ass. I told the athletic director that I worked for tonight at my game. I said, hey, this is where you put your money. So
absolutely.
I'm definitely going to shit where I eat on this one if I'm wrong, but I'm not going to be. And the reason,
don't worry, we'll clip it.
The reason that the line was the way it was at LSU plus 6.5, right? Everybody feels good about the Bayou Bengals because they have an amazing quarterback, because people only look at quarterback play. But if you look at what he's going to have to overcome just to be able to run the offense, you want to drop back and throw the ball 40 times with no running game. They are not going to be able to run the ball consistently against this Clemson Tiger defense. Parker and Woods are going to eat them alive up front. And the other thing is that the Clemson defensive line has a bunch of very highly touted recruits that are going to rotate in throughout the game. Dude, I'm telling you, this is trouble for LSU.
LSU's in a weird spot. Underwood decommitted from them last year and flipped to Michigan because of the money. LSU is having some problems. Brian Kelly might not be the answer that they have over there. Brian Kelly, Bayou Brian, goes down there from South Bend, Indiana, that does not have this accent. He also previously coached at Cincinnati and goes down there and talk like this and says, we gonna go win some games in the Bayou. Beep, boop, boop. And I don't get it. Bayou Brian, he's a phony. Okay, he's done some shady stuff. Yeah. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I almost said former Notre Dame fan. No, I'm a real Notre Dame fan. Brian Kelly is a former coach at Notre Dame. I don't have a lot of nice things to say about him. And Mama said, if you don't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Now I'm going to talk like Brian Kelly, because now I'm from the South. See, I can do an accent too, Mr. Byron. Okay? So when you go down to the Carolinas and you can't protect yourself, okay, that's on you, buddy. Okay? So, bringing it back to reality, the Carolinas are protected by this beautiful team called the Clemson Tigers, right? They have the right coach. They have the right people. They have the right culture. Won multiple national championships under this administration of coaches from the head coach. Okay? That's huge. Brian Kelly has nothing. He hasn't proved anything at LSU. He got bailed out by now offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He was down there with them with Jaden Daniels. Some people will say they have they say that he has this offense. He does not. He loses big games. You know, Penn State, you're about to catch a stray. Put on your hard helmet, okay? Franklin loses 18 top 5 games career-wise. Brian Kelly's up there with them. When Brian Kelly gets into a big game, his brain shuts off. He just doesn't know what to do. LSU, he probably has LSU convinced that they're going to Clemson and putting a fucking belt to ass and going to win by 15, 21, and they're going to be down. I'm going to call it now. 13-0 first quarter. Bet it. That's the spread. Check into it. It's going to be 13-0. And Brian Kelly's going to look over here, and he's going to be like this with his play. He's going to be, I don't know what the fuck to do. Been here before. Let's just hand the ball off now and not let my Heisman potential quarterback This is a game that
I'm the water boy. That's what he's gonna be
Yeah,
saying by the end of the game. Dabo's about to pull his pants down and spank him, like you said. Dude, this is gonna be a beatdown. This spread is so off. It's been off.
Kate and Klubnik from Westlake's Austin. Shout out to Westlake's, one of the best football programs. Also where Joe Rogan's from, or where he lives now. So he's this guy. He doesn't have Quinn Ewers. So just backstory: when Clemson played Texas, Klubnik and Ewers had a rivalry in Texas. Well, Ewers now has been developed, and he's now with the Dolphins in the NFL. And Klubnik's now still in the NCAA because he was a class under him. He's going against Neismeyer. This is a clash heavyweight fight. But besides it being a college football potential matchup that we'll see later on, because there's so much football left to play, Clemson has more to lose. But for the Heisman race, Klubnik has more to lose than anything on his Heisman winning. Anything else you want to add to that?
Don't worry about K. Klubnik's Heisman stock after this weekend. Nussmeier's going to take a hit because his team is going to be overwhelmed, not because of anything against him. I think Nussmeier's awesome.
Well, now we're going to be heading to another big matchup. This one's going to be 10 o'clock Central, 11 p.m. Eastern on Fox. This one's going to be covering Utah going to UCLA, part of the Big Ten. Nick, you had some talks about this earlier today. Go ahead.
I put a lot of thought into this game. So Kyle Whittingham's Utah Utes made big moves in the offseason, bringing in new offensive coordinator Jason Beck from New Mexico, which I think I referenced earlier in the show in a roundabout way. And he brings with him a dynamic quarterback in Devon Dampier, who has proven he can command this spread option RPO attack that the offensive coordinator brings with him. And this is an offense that, similar to our reference in the Ball State Purdue game earlier, but this is a higher stakes type of game with UCLA at home as a 6.5 point underdog with a 50.5 point spread, where UCLA has a lot of linebackers and secondary players that they've had to replace. I think they lost 1 or 2 NFL linebackers from last season. If not 2 NFL guys, though, some pretty legit linebackers. It's a big game for the Bruins. Their over-under from Vegas is 5.5. So really their goal should be to seek bowl eligibility. And Coach Foster there, who was an All-American running back there back in 2001, I'm old enough to remember him. He made headlines in the offseason acquiring Nico Amalivia from Tennessee via transfer portal. And Nico was
He didn't get one, he got 2. Buy one, get one at the bargain bin.
So UCLA brought in Nico, and Drew loves to try and mess me up while I'm, just looking at the notes, trying to be a football guy here, America. But Coach Drew's trying to pull me off track. He's probably trying to get me to make fun of Frank Reich or Andrew Luck or any number of other people that I don't really care for. But, we're here to educate you about football. So I'm going to get back on track here and just tell you that Kyle Whittingham made bigger moves for the Utah Utes in the offseason than UCLA did. UCLA has holes in their defense that are going to be exploited by this new spread RPO attack that they brought in. Utah's a program that's known for toughness up front on the offensive and defensive lines. And that's time for me to introduce you, if you don't know, to Spencer Fano, who's a returning All-American, potentially the top offensive tackle picked in the NFL draft. Their other offensive tackle probably going in the draft this year and not as a late round pick. So this is a UCLA defense that lost 2 NFL linebackers, like I said, and has a reconstructed defensive backfield that has a lot of question marks. So let me talk for 1 second about this option, spread option RPO attack that Kyle Whittingham's Utes are going to employ with Dampier at quarterback, who I absolutely love. Drew, you hear me talk all the time about Antoine Randall from back in the day. I was watching film on Devon Dampier. He reminds me a lot of my favorite all-time college football player, Antoine Randall. This guy is shifty, can throw it, although he threw 12 interceptions last year. So there's a concern in terms of like third down conversions with him. But I think coming in behind one of the nation's best offensive lines, you're going to see a very fun offense out of Utah to combine with a tough defense that they have every year. This will be a fun game to watch if you're just a general college football fan, but not if you're a UCLA fan. I think that Utah, again, is going to put ass to belt. I don't think UCLA's their front on both sides of the ball is weak. And I think that with that spread option attack, the loss of key guys at linebacker and defensive back is going to force UCLA to make a lot of decisions on defense with guys who aren't very experienced. And this is where this spread option RPO attack can really bust you open, is when you have guys who haven't faced it or who don't have a lot of experience on the field. So I definitely have Utah given 6.5 unless the line's updated. And then I don't care if it's moved by a point or two. I think Utah is going to work them. And, you know, I'm glad Nico got a paycheck there, but he did damage to his career and his potential NFL future by going to UCLA, which is a struggling program. No offense to Coach Foster there. I like him, but I think he's in a tough spot. I got Utah running away with this one.
Yeah, I do as well. This isn't the Troy Aikman era UCLA. This is the I'm gonna leave you UCLA, see you later era. Which again, UCLA, they're on the West Coast. We understand they're part of the Big Ten. We're gonna cover them, right? But earn our respect. Most of these teams, similar to UCLA, USC complains about traveling and getting on planes and doing all this stuff. You join the You joined the effing Midwest. You joined the Big Ten, which is located in the Midwest. Look at Stanford, okay? Their Grand General GM, Andrew Luck, Master of Aeronautics, Space Engineer, decided that, it's probably not his fault, but we'll just blame him. They're in the ACC. California touches the Pacific Ocean. For many of you at home that are following the ACC, it's the Atlantic Coastal Conference. So unless I'm missing something and California flipped to the East Coast.
I'm not a math guy, but yeah, the transition from the Pac-12 to the ACC maybe doesn't add up in a lot of different ways for Stanford. I don't know. Yeah. Drew, do you hate Stanford as much as you hate the state of Kansas?
No, not as much as
not quite as much.
No, not quite as much. But they also are a Notre Dame rival, so. Well, okay, so here's the thing: UCLA, USC. Let's just talk about this real quick. They are both programs that want to be part of A, the future of the Big Ten, and B, they want to be in the college football playoffs. USC has to prove with their defense, and UCLA just has to play quality football to try to get back to where they need to be, And we'll see what happens. That's all I got to say about this game. We'll see what happens. You just watch all this football. I think by the time we get to 10 o'clock my time, 11 o'clock Nick time, that's Eastern Central time. That's how we talk about the Midwest Blitz here. You're going to be just enjoying a good matchup at that point. Just enjoy the football game at that point. There's another one that you wanted to cover too. Colorado State against Washington. You like Washington, Nick? You want to chit chat about that one?
Yeah.
You could feel a little frosty about it. So Colorado State is plus 19.5 against Washington. Washington, if we remember, was in the national championship 2 years ago. Their head coach now is at Alabama. Nick likes Washington. They still have parts, and he has some notes he wants to add. Go ahead, Nick.
So the main reason I want to talk about this game is because I do think Washington is a sleeper, underrated team in the Big Ten. So Colorado State plus 19.5 goes to Washington, which is a tough place to play. The over-under is 52.5. So the Rams won 8 games last year, but they lost 9 starters on defense. I expect a big day from the Husky offense, and especially from running back Jonah Coleman. Yeah, if you're a Washington fan, this will be a fun one to watch. It's not such a mismatch that it'll feel like watching someone mug a blind kid. Colorado State won't be that bad, but it will be a chance to see Coleman, and Damon Williams, I believe, is the quarterback for Washington. And Boston, the wide receiver, will get to dazzle you with some highlight plays. I might go over 52.5 on that one, but I haven't pressed the button yet. Washington could light them up with 8 lost starters on defense. In fact, I'm circling that for my personal bet slip to revisit going into the weekend. They could put 40 on them. I feel pretty good about that.
I know they're Pac-12 team. Respect Washington and respect Oregon on this podcast. Because they don't complain, they just play. These other ones, California schools.
Jed Fish and the Huskies are going to be ready to play this year. That could be a 9-win team in the Big Ten.
You heard it here first. That's the Midwest Blitz for you. Well, Now, so that's Saturday. You're hungover. You get to go out, probably have to mow your lawn, get your chores knocked out. And then you have to remind your beautiful wife, fiance, girlfriend, partner in crime, whoever they are, and you tell them, hey, we got Catholics versus convicts at 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern Time, ABC,
Yes,
Notre
we do.
Dame, runner-up national champions. Sounds weird saying runner-ups, but they were there for a second. Go down to Hard Rock Cafe and play Miami. Who is favored? Just kidding. Notre Dame is. Barely. It keeps going back and forth. Notre Dame is favored, though. But yes, Catholics versus convicts. Nick is licking his chops. I'm over here
Literally.
saying a prayer to Our Lady, and letting Touchdown Jesus look over the field. Go ahead, Nick.
They say there's a magic in the sound of her name. Here come the Irish of Notre Dame. Freeman takes the Irish down to South Beach with one of America's best rushing attacks, led by Jeremiah Love, and brings an imposing defense led by Drake Bowen at linebacker and
Region
Leonard
rat.
Moore, a region rat. That's Northern Indiana for those of you that don't know. Drake Bowen, legendary region rat, and cornerback Leonard Moore, who takes the mantle of now recent legendary departed cornerbacks from Notre Dame. Did we say that when Bayou Brian was up here? I don't think so. They never had DBs like this before. So Mario Cristobal made headlines in the offseason acquiring quarterback Carson Beck from UGA from the Georgia Bulldogs. And the Hurricanes, like Notre Dame, have a top offensive line anchored by All-American Francis Migoa, but the Hurricanes lost a majority of their skill position production from last year and had to hit the transfer portal hard to replace a lot of production in the wide receiver room and add depth in the running back room. They do have a couple talented receivers coming up that didn't play a lot last year, but they lost their top 5 wide receivers from last year. So key matchups, Notre Dame offense versus Miami defense. So redshirt freshman quarterback CJ Carr is poised to make his first start on the road. So there's how I see this going. The Notre Dame offense is going to lean heavily on the run and All-American running back Jeremiah Love, or they're going to do so to the best of their ability. Love runs behind a young but very talented offensive line. I believe I heard today that Jagisaw, the offensive guard for Notre Dame, might have broke his arm. They're not sure how long he's out, but he's not going to play against Miami. So we already have an offensive line injury for Notre Dame, and they face a Miami defensive line with 3 all-conference caliber players, including 2 guys that might be All-Americans. Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor at the defensive ends are an absolute menace. These aren't just like speedy edge rushers. These are guys that can stuff the run, that can take up a gap. So Notre Dame's offense, while I think is one of the best running offenses in the country, is they're going to have a challenge on the road with crowd noise. You know, the Catholics versus convicts shit is going to get brought up again, and people are hyped about that. This defensive line group from Miami is very deep with 4 highly touted recruits that come off the bench and will rotate in and out. So Baines and Mesidor are not going to be out there every down and be tired by the end of the game. This Miami defensive front is tough and they are nasty. I think Notre Dame is capable of success in the running game, but it won't be easy, especially early. And here's why I chose my key to watch for Notre Dame's offense versus Miami's defense. How will redshirt freshman quarterback CJ Carr in his first start in a wild road environment? You got a night game in Miami, the crowd is going to be liquored up and they're going to be lathered up. How is he going to be able to handle the crowd noise with a young offensive line group who just lost one of their starters? And Jagisaw, we just talked about, he got hurt last year towards the beginning of the year too, which is unfortunate. How will they respond to the crowd noise? How will they be able to adapt throughout the game during third down situations? Because, you know, we're not playing Navy this week. Notre Dame is going to have to actually really grind it out to be successful in the running game. They're going to have some third and longs and third and medium, like tough situations in the first half, especially, that I think the spotlight is on Carr. Well, nationally, and for the casual viewer, it's on Carr, but it's also on that offensive line that's going to have to make adjustments and protections and audibles at the line of scrimmage. So moving on to the Miami offense against the Notre Dame defense, some people, I don't know, quarterbacks is like the cheap celebrity that people kick around in the tabloids, and some quarterbacks are great, some quarterbacks are not, some are overrated. I think Carson Beck is a guy that catches a lot of shade, especially since last year he threw a few more interceptions than he did the year before. Carson Beck, who comes in to run the Hurricane offense, is 24-3. Now, I mean, Coach Drew, I think I brought this up before here on the Midwest Blitz. In the NFL, you pay quarterbacks to win games. I think in college football, quarterbacks on big-time teams that have talent, the main thing they do is not lose the game for you. And at 24-3 in SEC play, Carson Beck has shown a football IQ and a field generalship that is not to be dismissed lightly. But he has a tall task facing a stacked Notre Dame defense, headlined by Bowen and Moore, as we stated. Beck does have the benefit of a great offensive line with McGough at tackle, but Miami had to hit the portal hard to replace a lot of production. So the key to watch is, without an established number one receiver, can Carson Beck play point guard? Can he be John Stockton and just dish it out to the open man to keep the chains moving and keep pressure on Notre Dame? Now, I do think that C.J. Daniels, an LSU transfer, could end up being the go-to guy at receiver, but that remains to be seen when you get a bunch of guys in the mix who haven't played together. And against a Notre Dame backfield who is amongst the nation's best. Notre Dame's DBs are absolutely fantastic.
Well, I'm going to tack on to the offensive line issue you mentioned earlier with Notre Dame. If he's a no-go, right, with the cat situation and can't play, in times past with Bayou Brian, formerly known as Brian Kelly in his earlier life.
Formerly.
Before he had a southern accent we didn't know about, I would be really nervous because I didn't know what would happen. Marcus Freeman, on a generational run, and the college football playoffs last year, and the extension of it, had multiple injuries at multiple positions and got the men correctly associated to the golden standard. Next man up, right? And this is also why I'm going to lead into the other thing. You talk about C.J. Carr, okay? Now, C.J. Carr is not related to Derek Carr, the quarterback, who just retired, who played for the Saints and formerly Raiders, right? You're talking about the grandson of Lloyd Carr, the famous Michigan head coach who dominated. Now, this isn't nepotism. That's not how he got this job. If it was nepotism, he would be at Michigan, and he would take Bryce Underwood's spot, and there would be no such thing as a quarterback battle. That'd be nepotism. C.J. Carr, on the other hand, he earned his spot. Some people say skip a generation, right? C.J. Carr's father didn't make it to Notre Dame or Michigan as successful as he was with stars and everything. And now you're looking at, okay, where's he at mentally, right? Lloyd Carr, his grandpa, probably helped him a lot to get mentally prepared for this. It's similar to the Arch Manning situation where he has family members who are going to help him get prepared. He also went into a quarterback battle where he could have just, it wasn't easy for him. Everything up to this point for C.J. Carr has been earned, right? I will say this, though. In retrospect, Marcus Freeman, I saw in an earlier press conference, he did mention that Minchie, he said point blank, he said, I wasn't expecting him to be happy. I wasn't expecting him to take the news and just lay down. Meaning, like, yeah, you just lost a starting quarterback position at one of the prestigious universities. What's the next move? You know, it took a couple days. I think he said it was more mental just getting him back. But he was still hitting it hard, and he's hitting it hard too. So for whatever reason, C.J. Carr gets down, and he can't do it. I believe Minchie can come in and also cover for him. So we're in a good situation there at quarterback. But they also have like a three-headed horse there with Price backing up Love, and then we also have Williams, so they can run the ball a lot. They have a plethora of wide receivers. They have tight ends. Notre Dame's in a good position with that. I would say Carson Beck is also in a good position as he went to Miami, which is known for giving out NIL deals before the NIL deals did happen. That's why they got in trouble in the early 2000s. So I think that's why Carson Beck went down there, and there was also some tail he was chasing with the twins, the Kavanaugh twins.
Tail?
Right?
Tail?
And so Carson Beck, with a ACL injury, Tommy John surgery, all this stuff, slinging a football, I don't think it's going to be easy for him to go against Notre Dame. Notre Dame played against Texas A&M. We were talking about situational stuff. Riley Leonard did not do well, I recall, against Texas A&M and the road. He didn't really throw the ball a lot well, and they relied on Love.
You want a Lee Corso reference here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not so fast, my friend. Number one, don't throw CJ Carr in the same pile with Riley Leonard, who did wonderful things for the Irish last year, especially down the stretch. CJ Carr is from a big-time football family, as you mentioned, with the grandpa. I'm not sure what CJ Carr's dad did in the football universe, but he was probably pretty good if his dad's like a borderline college football Hall of Fame coach. So I feel good about CJ Carr and his potential at Notre Dame. But my not so fast, my friend, reference to the legendary Coach Corso, who retires this Saturday in his last College Game Day appearance, is to the injury on the offensive line. So as I started to touch on earlier, Jagusaw was hurt last year. One of the other current starters, I don't have the name in front of me, was hurt last year, which allowed Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler to come into the starting lineup and help lead this team on a national championship game run. Well, they've lost that veteran leadership. Spindler went to Nebraska. Coogan went to Indiana. So now a younger, less experienced line group just got younger and less experienced in a road game. And that's my concern for the Irish here. I think the Irish have the better squad, but in this road environment, things happen on the road. I think Notre Dame's going to win this game, but I don't feel strongly enough about it to bet on it. And if they end up blowing the Hurricanes out, Coach Drew can rub my nose in it, and I will celebrate with all you Irish fans. I like the Irish. I love Notre Dame Stadium. I've never been around a better group of college football fans than I have when I go up to the house that Rockne built. But I have concerns about this offensive line injury, and I have concerns about a young group trying to communicate on offense on third down.
All I got to say is I'd rather be at Hard Rock Cafe Stadium than being at the 12th man Texas A&M to open up the season. That's my main point, too, also that I want to bring in the atmosphere. I think if I had to pick a poison, I'd rather do that. And Notre Dame plays Texas A&M week 2, which is one of the strongest matchups back-to-back weeks in the college football slate. We're not talking about the rest of the season of Notre Dame,
all the
because
other
sometimes,
teams, yeah.
And I just feel like, again, they have Fields. He's gonna do some damage out there as a wide receiver. They have Pauling in from Wisconsin. This Notre Dame team is poised to do great things. The secondary is coming in there. As a Notre Dame fan, with Marcus Freeman, I mean, I tell people all the time, when Brian Kelly talked and he got people hyped, I was like, all right, let's do this. That's it. That's all I felt. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, Brian Kelly. Yeah, Bayou Brian. Woohoo! When Marcus Freeman talks, I feel like I'm in World War I and I gotta go over the hill and
Trench warfare.
Run through trench warfare, go into no man's land. Marcus Freeman gets me to no man's land. Brian Kelly just kind of kicks me in the trenches and says, well, we just gotta keep the rations up and the morale going. Notre Dame, we're in a great position. Go Irish. We're gonna have a great time.
Go Irish, 100%. I'm pulling for the Irish, but I think these are serious concerns. Sometimes you've got different matchups on either side of the ball that could slightly swing a game, but I feel like, again, this is a theme throughout the show. Youth at the quarterback position plus youth at the offensive line position, as Drew likes to point out to me, can combine for some sticky situations. I still think the Irish are going to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for all you degenerates out there, I'm going with whatever's better, and I think because if Miami's favored, that means I got to go with the money line for Notre Dame, which I will.
Money line.
Spread.
Money.
You gotta go with the spread.
Whoa. Now I just burst out into song. So we backed off of our money line position here. We're going with the spread.
We're going with whatever gives us the most bang for our buck, because Notre Dame's covering both. Whatever
Touché.
the chips gives us the most. Anything else you want to add on this matchup?
Other than that, I am super pumped to watch this game. No, Coach Drew.
Yeah. And then there's one game that I just want to mention real quick, just in case you thought you got through Sunday and then you go to work on Monday. There's not Monday Night Football yet for the NFL, but you will see somebody who is very famous in the NFL.
He's
Bill
got
Belichick.
a big fat face and a sweatshirt, probably. It's Bill Belichick. We've seen him on Monday Night Football 800 times if you're as old as I am. That game will be interesting from a standpoint of, we talked about doing this as a feature game. We don't even know exactly what kind of offense or defense Belichick's going to employ at North Carolina. we don't even really know who the starters are going to be. He's got a mismatch of guys, kind of like some of the teams we've talked about that just got hit hard in the transfer portal, although North Carolina should be the beneficiary of some transfer portal guys that Belichick picked for himself. One of, if not the greatest NFL coach of all time, I say grudgingly as I sit here in Indianapolis, Indiana, that, yeah, this game will be interesting. And key matchups, who knows what they are, because we don't know what Bill's going to do.
We don't know what Bill's going to do, but it'll be fun to watch if you want to track it. That there is a game on Monday, and then we'll get into week 2. Well, I think that's about it, huh, Nick? We made it through it.
Is it time for another Midwest goodbye?
It is a Midwest goodbye, where we just sit here and talk to you for another 45 minutes because we said goodbye, and you're not actually going anywhere. We're just going to talk about random things now.
No, we could offer you another plate of food, maybe a water, maybe a beer. We don't know.
That Midwest goodbye. My bad. Well, just like we always ask for.
Which
Go ahead,
game?
Nick. You got another one?
Well, before you guys go on this Midwest goodbye, let us know what game are you looking forward to the most and what you're most surprised by after the games this weekend, because we never really know what's going to happen, except in LSU Clemson. I know what's going to happen there. But I guess, Drew, maybe it's time to say goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. You can comment on Spotify. I'll also put up a poll for a question you can answer. And on YouTube, obviously, you can comment on YouTube. People do it all the time.
TikTok.
Check us out on TikTok, Twitter, everything that says the Midwest Blitz. Follow us everywhere. Well, this is Coach Drew signing off.
If there's anybody who thinks LSU is going to beat Clemson, I want you to tell me why before the game.
And then write them an apology letter why you were wrong.
Me? I'm not apologizing because I'm not going to be wrong.
No, not you. I'm saying them when they say.
All right. Well, this has been another Midwest goodbye from the Midwest Blitz.
Catch y'all later.
Later, fellas. Enjoy the weekend.